Hey guys, John here, and welcome back to my series of vlogs on the Netflix series Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Now, if you missed my first vlog on the first episode yesterday, I'm going to put the link to it right around here so you can check it out, okay? So, with that out of the way, let's get to talking about the episode. Okay, a couple things about the series in general first. I was looking at who was the person who was directing a lot of these episodes, or at least these first two. It's Barry Sonnenfeld, who I know his name sounded familiar. And apparently he's a somewhat successful and acclaimed director and also cinematographer. Well, for one thing, he directed the movie 9 Lives, which I mentioned in yesterday's vlog because I was saying that the actress who plays Violet here was also in that movie, and, you know, that would explain it because same director. But this guy's also directed movies like the Men in Black movies and a movie called Get Shorty, which is like I think like a spoof of mafia movies. I don't know, my dad has a movie, I've watched a little bit with him. He also directed some other movies that weren't as well acclaimed, so kind of a mixed career for this guy, I guess. But he's also done good work as a cinematographer, working on movies by the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen. So that would explain some of the really impressive cinematography, like I said, especially in the first half of yesterday's episode. So anyway, this episode is a longer one than yesterday's. Yesterday's was about 45 minutes. This one is an hour and 4 minutes, which was fine, just a little longer to watch for me. And also yesterday, by the way, I said that the title of the episode was The Bad Beginning, but it's actually A Bad Beginning, and this is the second part of the episode, A Bad Beginning Part 2. So, anyway, the plot of the episode. So, we see at the beginning, Patrick Warburton as Lemony Snicket, the narrator, telling us that what we saw at the beginning of the episode yesterday, that wasn't really the start of the story. And what he then proceeds to show us is how the kids ended up in Count Olaf's care. You see, Count Olaf put on a disguise and gave a fake name, went to go see Mr. Poe, the banker who I mentioned yesterday. That's his name, Mr. Poe. And basically, he convinced him in a, without much effort, basically, to, how do I put this? He basically convinced them to give the kids, he convinced him to give the kids to him because he's their closest living relative as far as location, as far as close, instead of closest, which he was originally going to do, and by that situation, closest would have meant just like, like close family members, basically. So that's how they ended up with Olaf, I guess. This is actually a pretty funny scene. This episode is actually funnier and probably overall better than the first part. But although this scene is a little bit like, really, that's all you had to do? I mean, in the movie, I don't remember the book exactly, but in the movie with Jim Carrey, Mr. Poe was basically just kind of a total idiot. Here, not as much, so I don't know if it's really as plausible. But whatever. Once again, ignore the beep. Yeah. But it does explain here more about this than it did in the movie with Jim Carrey movie, so that's a benefit. But, there's more you can do with the whole TV show. And after watching this episode up until the end, I realized that the first episode, the two-part episode, A Bad Beginning, is actually the first book in its entirety. Which, from what I remember of the first book, yeah, it's the same story, basically. The beginning to end, it's pretty much the same plot as the first book. I guess each of these two-part episodes is represents one of the books. I don't know. I guess I only read the first book, so I'm not sure. But the main plot here, so the kids try to go tell Mr. Poe about, how Olaf is treating them, and he just doesn't really listen. I guess he's a little bit of an idiot, and he just, doesn't really take them seriously. They're just kids. Even after Klaus, that's the name of the middle child, and yes, that is his name, I checked, tells them that, Count Olaf, slapped him in the face. I mean, I'm not exactly sure when this story is supposed to take place. I don't know if it's like the past or if they're just kind of having it take place now or in recent years. But I do know people tend to take accusations of child abuse a lot more serious nowadays than they used to, so I don't know, I'm not sure about that. I think they do make a reference to the internet at one point in this episode, so I think it might take place in modern times, but whatever. Yeah, so they basically go and they try to, Olaf basically develops this scheme, which he reveals to them, where he tells the kids that he wants them to be in a play that he's done, because he's an actor, and he, wrote and directed, produced the play. And he's like some, in the play, Olaf basically plays some, rich guy who's, all amazing or something, and Violet, he wants Violet to play the character who is his wife, who will marry him at one point in the play. This was all in the first movie, like I said. In the first movie, they kind of just crammed stuff from, like, I don't know, all the books into it. But yeah, so basically we reveal that his scheme is that he's going to basically set up this scenario where it's going to be technically legally binding, that, he will be married to Violet legally, even though everyone will think it's just a play, but it's going to be technically legally binding because they have the judge there, Justice Strauss, taking on the judge role, and he gets an actual legal document instead of just a prop, and she says, I do. And, when the kids try to, confront him about this, they figured it out. They're like, oh, no, you can't, Violet can't get married, she's too young, she's just a kid. And he says, well, actually, she can, with the permission of her legal guardian, which is him, Olaf. And that would make sense, although I'm not sure if it's legal for an adult to marry their underage child, or even an overage child. But whatever, it's, it's a fantasy. So yeah, they do the research and everything, and they figure this stuff out, but they still don't know what to do. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of this episode is more comedy driven, and a lot of it is very funny. There's this one particular really funny line where one of Olaf's henchmen captures them when they're trying to. You see, what happens actually is that Olaf at one point kidnaps the baby Sunny, and ties her up, puts duct tape over her mouth, puts her in a cage, and suspends her from midair. And he basically threatens Violet basically with saying, okay, if you don't go through with the wedding, then he'll just release her and she'll fall to the ground and die. So Violet and Klaus basically try to rescue her, Sunny, and then when one of his henchmen catches them, he brings them back to the room, just kind of throws them in, and he yells at them, go to bed and say your prayers, unless you're atheists. And that was just like, that is a good joke. You don't see a lot of jokes like that in kids shows nowadays. But that's a good one. Yeah, we also, speaking of Sunny, we also get a lot of really funny one-liners from her, even though she's not actually speaking. She just kind of makes these, little baby noises, like, eh-eh. And, then they have the, subtitles from what she says. And then these really kind of funny one-liners, like, everything crazy is going on, and she just kind of doesn't give a you-know-what. Like, she's just kind of like, oh, whatever. Like, and she has all these, like, snarky remarks and stuff, I actually was reading online on the IMDb page for this show, and it said that they have the thing where they have the baby actress who plays Sunny. But then they also have a different thing in the same, list of all the actors, where they say, Tara Strong plays Sunny. And I'm thinking maybe that they got Tara Strong to do the voice of Sunny in the form of the baby noises. Or, I don't know, maybe we, hear her thoughts some point later in the series. I don't know. But if so, that's interesting. Yeah, so they have this whole big scene, where they set up the play, they can't, seem to stop Olaf. And basically, hold on. Basically what happens is, I was just looking at some notes. They go through the whole thing, and then for a reason which I still don't totally understand, even after seeing it in the Jim Carrey movie and reading in the book, Olaf just announces in front of anyone, hey guys, here's what I did. I just married this girl so I could steal her fortune. Ha ha ha. And everyone's outraged, but they said there's something that, he said oh, there's something you can do. And then Violet announces, oh, really? Well, guess what? I didn't sign that document with my own hand, like the law says. I signed it with my left hand, and I'm right-handed, which, I don't know. Once again, this is in the book, and this is in the Jim Carrey movie. I don't know. Couldn't it just be like, oh, I misspelled my name intentionally or something, and then, not reveal this until after he reveals to what he did? I don't think that's kind of how the law works, but whatever. Fantasy world, too. And they have actually this interesting scene where Klaus looks into his research and he explains how, according to the law, apparently, at least in this world, The fact that she signed with her left hand instead of her right hand does in fact mean that they're not legally married, but they actually kind of just sort of like literally just gloss over this scene, which is probably the best way to do it since there's not really any way to really explain this in a way that makes much sense. And then as they try to basically, they're gonna take the kids away from Count Olaf, Mr. Poe is, and then before they can arrest Count Olaf basically he turns off all the lights in the room, and before he escapes, he whispers to Violet, and this is a line taken directly from the book, not in the movie because it didn't fit with the plot of the movie, where he basically says the line, like, which I said I believe is directly taken from the book. I remember it. He says to her, "I will get my hands on that fortune if it's the last thing I ever do." And it's kind of just like one of those things where it's like, I remember that in the book. Yeah. So then they kind of show some more stuff about how the parents, who, like I said, are alive, they're in jail, and they basically, they're trying to escape and everything, and then the kids are going off to, I don't know, I'm not sure where they're going, but they're going off to live with somebody else. They want to live with Justice Strauss, but they can't because the will says it has to be relative. So anyway, they get taken away, and the episode kind of ends. So overall, this was a very good episode. I think it was probably, I would say it's definitely better than the first part overall. Kind of a more interesting plot, and just more entertaining with the humor and everything. We get more of Sunny, more character development for her, if you want to call that. Yeah, I guess you could. Just kind of seeing her get more lines and everything. And yeah, just I'm getting kind of a little more into Neil Patrick Harris as Count Olaf. It's definitely a very good performance, and I wasn't denying that yesterday, but I'm kind of starting to like it a little bit more. Just an enjoyable, entertaining kind of villain, intimidating and enjoyable too. So yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say. Like I said, you can check out the first vlog there if you didn't already before this one, but you should have. And I'll do another one of these at some point in the next few days, alright? And thanks for watching. Bye.